Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new Ninjago video here on the channel. My name is TannerFishies. In today's video, it is finally time to continue my series of Ninjago fans' hot takes. For those that might not be aware, this is a series that I have been running for many years on this channel, where we take a look at various spicy and or controversial Ninjago opinions submitted by you guys, the audience. A few weeks ago, I put up a community tab post asking once again for Ninjago hot takes, specifically for Season 3 Part 2 of Ninjago Dragons Rising, since that chapter of Ninjago is still very much fresh in our minds. And I received a bunch of submissions, and sorry it's taken me this long to get to this video. There was just a lot of other stuff that I wanted to talk about first, but now it is finally time to talk about new hot takes coming from you guys surrounding Season 3 Part 2 of Ninjago Dragons Rising. Just remember, these takes are supposed to be fairly controversial and a little bit outlandish. Be sure to not go out of your way to harass anyone whose hot takes is featured in today's video. Again, these are very unconventional or controversial opinions, definitely not the norm when it comes to the Ninjago community. So without further ado, let's get to it. Let's take a look at some Ninjago hot takes, specifically for Ninjago Dragons Rising Season 3 Part 2. First of all, we have this one. Now, I did see a few other takes similar to this one, but I think the overall common opinion very much goes against what is said here, which is, I actually believe that Cole and Kai's argument was in character for both of them. Cole is someone who doesn't usually lose his cool, but we've seen how serious he takes promises, like his promise to his mother. He promised the Finders that he would protect them, and when he failed to do that, he felt like he broke that promise and trust. This made him not only angry with Noct, but also with himself. He wanted to free the Finders immediately due to his guilt, which caused him to not think rationally. For Kai, it showed his development from being the hot-headed one to someone who was more emotionally mature and wise. He became the voice of reason, which in previous seasons would have been the exact opposite, having Cole be the voice of reason instead. Yeah, so like I said, I saw a few other comments similar to this, but at the time of Season 3 Part 2 coming out, a lot of people thought that Cole's crash out, if you will, was very unwarranted and very out of character. And I will say, I do agree with the idea that it actually is in character, just given how much we've seen Cole care about the Finders and how much, again, he takes promises seriously. Again, while it might be weird to see Cole actually be the hot-headed one, I guess you could say, for a change, it is definitely in character for Cole. I very much agree with that, and I never really agreed with the idea that it was completely out of character or something that Cole would never do. I think once you put yourself in Cole's shoes and understand what he's feeling from his perspective, it's a lot easier to understand, and if I were in Cole's position, not gonna lie, I'd probably crash out like that too. Next up here, we have the Lee thing was the weirdest stuff that has come out of Ninjago in a long time, and I am all for it. Yeah, so like the previous hot take, I did see a few other hot takes suggesting this too, or at least saying something similar, like talking positively about the Land of Lee, which I do think is refreshing considering most of what I've seen surrounding the Land of Lee, especially the musical sequence, is very negative, especially when Season 3 Part 2 was first coming out. A lot of people really did not care for Lee, the Land of Lee, the musical sequence, just any of that. I've always been of the opinion, though, that it actually is fairly creepy and also, yeah, extremely weird. I think once you look more into it, it does present itself more as a positive thing. Sure, on the surface, it's just a silly musical number, but when you look into it even more, again, it starts to be a little bit sinister. I've actually seen a lot more appreciation for Lee as a villain now, which I enjoy, but I also think it's just because Thunderfang and the Forbidden Five were so underutilized in this season. And if they were awesome villains, I don't think Lee would have been hyped up as much as he is, but still, it is nice to see, again, some recognition and some appreciation for the weird Ninjago content. Next up here, we have this hot take surrounding Jay. I didn't like how Jay was handled in the last episode. He just shows up and tells Nia that she makes him want to be good again, but I didn't see that happening in the season. We see how Nia tries to make Jay good again, but we don't see how it impacts him. The last time we saw him before the last episode, and also every episode this season, Jay was still very much evil/mean. We did not see him doubting himself, asking himself if he wants to be good or why, or try to be good or any change in his character. And then he shows up and tells us that he wants to be good. It's another moment in Dragon's Rising that they are telling and not showing. Also, it shouldn't be so simple to turn good again after you shatter your goodness, which they say there is no going back after it. Yeah, okay, so I've seen a lot of people under the opinion that Jay was actually handled extremely poorly in season 3, but I don't see a lot of people talking about the ending specifically or how Jay just kind of showed back up again to rescue Nia just because he felt some kind of connection to her. A lot of people, myself included, really enjoyed that whole sequence. I do agree that it does seem maybe a little bit rushed, but I don't think it's completely out of left field because I feel like Jay throughout the entirety of season 3 and season 3 part 2 was very much dealing with this idea of being familiar with Nia especially. Like was suggested by Aaron's mother, Jay's body language definitely told a different story as opposed to his attitude and his motivation. Sure, Jay might have been talking a lot about how much he hated the ninja, how much he thought they were stupid, how much of a waste of time all of this was, etc., but you could tell just by watching the season that Jay definitely felt some kind of connection to Nia. For example, in the Land of Lee, after their mission was complete in finding Aaron's parents, Jay wanted to leave, but it's not like he left by himself. He wanted to take Nia with him. Sure, the ninja owed him payment, but he's not going to sit around in an active war zone waiting for his payment. He's going to get out of there and then wait to get paid. So while I do understand where this comment is coming from, I do feel like Dragon's Rising Season 3 has been laying the breadcrumbs very subtly for Jay not being completely gone, so I can't really fully agree with this hot take. Next up, hot take, Zarkt redeemed himself. He is now my favorite Forbidden 5 member. Okay, so the idea of Zarkt redeeming himself I feel like isn't that much of a hot take, just because a lot of people have definitely expressed how happy they are that Zarkt actually did something in season 3 part 2. If anything, he was the most impactful of the entire Forbidden 5. But speaking of the entire Forbidden 5, I'm not sure if I would agree that he's the best Forbidden 5 member, nor do I think a lot of people would be saying that just because of how much he was underutilized in season 3 part 1. A lot of that does bleed into season 3 part 2 as well. Zarkt finally getting a moment to shine is awesome, but I don't think it's enough to completely, again, erase everything that we saw throughout the entire rest of this season. Next up here, the Ronto set is good, inaccurate, but good. Yeah, so a season 3 part 2 hot take, not so much based off the show, but more so based on a set. That, of course, being the Ronto the Master Dragon set, which myself and many other Ninjago fans have been very critical towards for the idea that it's not completely show accurate. Which again, this comment does agree with, but I'm not so sure if the set is even all that good to begin with. I think it has a decent selection of minifigures, and sure, my main issue with this set is that it's not really the most accurate thing ever, but even on its own, I'm not a big fan of how this dragon looks. If this was just some random, completely separate dragon and not Ronto, I feel like people would still take issue with its build, especially the jaw, which to a lot of people just looks horrendous. Not to mention the bright pink wings very much stand out and stick out like a sore thumb, so I'm not really sure if I agree with this take. If you like the Ronto set, again, that's totally fine, totally understandable. It has decent minifigures at the very least, but I'm not the biggest fan still of the dragon, even if it wasn't supposed to be Ronto. Next up here, every single season 3 part 2 episode is a 10 out of 10. Very much disagree with this one. This is definitely a very hot take, I would say, and I feel like a lot of people would also disagree, considering that season 3 part 2 has been ranked very low among Ninjago fans. A lot of people, myself included, have pointed out a lot of problems that this chapter of Ninjago has. And don't get me wrong, it certainly does have a lot of positive aspects. It's definitely, again, in my opinion, a lot better than season 3 part 1, but I definitely would not say that every single episode is just perfect 10 out of 10. Again, my rating system is probably different to a lot of people out there, but again, I definitely disagree that every episode is a 10 out of 10. Some are, but not all the episodes. Next hot take, Jay's hairstyle is kind of growing on me. I would be all for it if he had bangs though. Yeah, I agree with the whole thing about the bangs. I think that would have made his hairstyle look a lot more messy and definitely add to the whole rogue vibe. But I do agree that the hairstyle is definitely growing on me too, but I think it's more so, at least from my perspective, the idea that I'm so used to it now. A lot of people definitely still do not like Jay's ponytail, and even myself, I've said before that I like the idea of Jay having a ponytail. I'm just not the biggest fan of it being this design, you know, the Okino hairstyle, but I am getting used to it because I've seen it so much. I've seen season 3 a few times through now. Again, I make Ninjago videos daily, and I've certainly made my fair share of Jay videos, so I've seen Jay with this hairstyle a lot, so much so to the point now where the older hairstyle is starting to look a little weird. And like I said, I did see a lot of negative comments about Jay's hairstyle on this post, so having a positive one is definitely on the more controversial side, I would say. And finally here, for the last hot take of this video, we have this one. Hot take, I think the Source Dragons are now by far the worst characters in the Ninjago franchise. Half of them basically left the council after Lloyd made a risky decision to unleash the Arc Dragon of Focus. It just shows how cowardly, ungrateful, and irresponsible they really are. They could have lost their lives if it wasn't for Lloyd, yet they turned their back on everything they stood for, all because of their pride and ignorance, something that even Thunderfang pointed out. Yeah, you know you're in hot water when Thunderfang is actually making sense. But no, with this hot take, I can kind of agree with it. I don't think the Source Dragons are the worst characters ever by any means. Throughout the entire Ninjago franchise, I can name probably close to 100 characters that are worse than the Source Dragons. But I do agree with some of them being a little bit misguided and, again, not really willing to help the mortals and, again, not wanting to help out Lloyd or the other ninja. That is very misguided of them, and I do think a lot of the Source Dragons are, again, kind of pompous, a little bit self-obsessed. Even, again, Thunderfang pointed that out with strength. But yeah, I do agree that the Source Dragons are a little bit misguided, at least some of them are, but I feel like that will very much be a plot point in Dragons Rising Season 4, though. I think there's a reason for that. I understand not liking the Source Dragons. Definitely don't agree, again, that they are the worst characters in the Ninjago franchise, but I totally get, again, not liking some of them, especially Strength, Life, and Focus, for how they reacted after Season 3 Part 2 wrapped up. But with that being said, everyone, that's going to pretty much wrap it up for my thoughts here. That's pretty much all we have time for in today's video. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's round of Ninjago Hot Takes. Again, this time primarily focusing on Season 3 Part 2 of Ninjago Dragons Rising. Leave all of your thoughts and opinions down below in the comments. Did you find yourself agreeing with any of these hot takes? Why or why not? And also, thank you very much to everyone who submitted hot takes for this video. Obviously, with over 1,000 responses, we could not get through all of them, but again, I do appreciate you guys submitting hot takes whenever I make one of these posts, because that's what makes these videos possible. So thank you so much, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to today's video right here. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. If you guys did, feel free to like and subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and I will talk to you guys again very, very soon. Peace.